So the other day, I don't know if it was yesterday or the day before, but at some point over the course of the weekend, there was a mass shooting in this country. And some of the details coming out of the mass shooting are not so good. There was a mass shooting at a queer bar on the same day as Transgender Day of Remembrance. And, some details about this shooter have come out. And I want to talk about the details here. And I want to, make the connection between this mass shooting with right-wing rhetoric online and in political spaces. So, once again, Transgender Day of Remembrance, you might not know what that is. It's supposed to be a kind of like, imagine a Veterans Day for trans people. Trans people historically have been pretty not well treated in society, at least for the last couple thousand years. Before that, trans people were great. Everyone loved them. But last couple thousand years hasn't been going so well. So we have our own little Veterans Day. And on that day, people like to host celebrations. And so the mass shooter probably understood that and chose that time period to go ahead and do their terror attack. So I'm going to go here, and this is an interesting tidbit of information that I saw. Accused Colorado nightclub gunman, grandson of a longtime East County politician. Anderson Lee Aldrich, 22, is reportedly the grandson of Assemblyman Randy Vopel, a longtime mayor of Santee. So people were looking into this guy's family, and apparently the family of this guy is a right-wing lunatic, a MAGA guy, a guy that parrots and promotes all these conspiracy theories. Who knows what this guy was teaching the mass shooter here when he was sitting on his grampy's lap? Who knows, right? The 22-year-old man arrested early Sunday as the suspected gunman in a deadly mass shooting at an LGBTQ nightclub in Colorado is the grandson of longtime East County politician Randy Vopel, according to media reports. Vopel did not return messages seeking comment, and the Union Tribune could not immediately independently confirm the reports. There was another mass shooting very recently. Mass shooter is the son of a well-connected Republican donor in the area. I believe that was the July 4th shooting that happened in somewhere. It starts with an I. It was one of those I states. Somewhere. Shortly before midnight Saturday, a gunman opened fire in Club Q in Colorado Springs. Police there said 5 people died and 25 were injured. 5 minutes after the first calls came in, police arrested the suspected shooter, Anderson Lee Aldrich. Aldrich's mother appears to be Laura Vopel, according to media, including The Guardian, The Hill, and The Gazette in Colorado Springs. Records reviewed by the Union Tribune, that is the San Diego Union Tribune, which is where I'm reading this article from, lists the same Colorado Springs apartment address for her and Aldrich. Laura Vopel is the daughter of State Assemblyman Randy Vopel, 71, who has represented the 71st District since 2016. He served on the Santee City Council as a council member and mayor for 2 decades. So again, real quick, let me pause here. This is what we talk about when it comes to generational kind of violence and hatred, right? A lot of people love to say the basic thing, right? Slavery was like 200 years ago, bro. Get over it. Right. But again, when you've got people that are the, kids of slave owners and they're getting taught God knows what by those parents, and then they teach whatever they were taught to their parents. And unless someone breaks the cycle, which is, let's be honest, it's not as often or as frequent as it should be, but unless someone breaks the cycle, chances are, again, we still have these parents, these grandparents that are teaching kids to hate other people. It's just that simple. Like, this is a generational problem, right? Like, obviously, no shit, duh, 22-year-old should have known better. No fucking shit. I'm not trying to infantilize him. But a lot of people, they get triggered when you talk about, the parents. The parents, we can't talk about the parents. Remember when people were talking about like Kyle Rittenhouse's mom, and then she went on Fox News to talk about why are people saying I was a bad mom. I mean, like, let's be honest. Your kid went to go murder black people at a protest. You're a pretty fucking terrible mom, right? So in this instance, again, right, it comes down to parenting, environment. This is a child that was born and raised in bigotry and hatred of people that are not the same as them. It's just that simple. Combine that with the fact that you've got rapid dehumanizing rhetoric going on, genocidal freak show rhetoric going on all over the internet. Again, 22 years old. You know, the idea that they're not using the internet, like 22-year-old not plugged into 4chan every day. They're not on Telegram and these like right-wing 8chan, 8kun fucking message board like private chat rooms. No, of course they're in that shit. They probably got like a whole phone, full of fucking crazy motherfuckers that they talk to on their various social media applications. So, of course, this guy is using the internet. Of course, it makes sense. But of course, again, the right-wingers are going to try to pretend they have nothing to do with this, bro. We have nothing to do. Again, we lie about transgender people literally every single day and have for years. It's not our fault that someone believed the lies. They should have known better. They should have known we were lying to them. So, anyway, I'm going to show you an example tweet here. And this is of Matt Walsh. Matt Walsh, of course, notorious. Matt Walsh was a nobody. This guy was nobody. No one followed him. He had no followers. He had no fans. And he had a Daily Wire show was because of sympathy from someone that was, just saw he was pathetic and needed a little bump. But Matt Walsh became extremely popular in a very short amount of time. About a year, maybe a year and a half, you could say. And how did he get that popular? Well, he got that popular by starting again, and I use these words very specifically and very purposefully, a literal genocide campaign against transgender people. That's what he did. That's what he started, and now look how popular he is, right? Because hatred is popular in this country. That's what you need to understand. Hatred, bigotry, is the default position. People in this country, if you're born and raised in the United States of America, unless your parents are like devout anti-racist scholars, you're probably going to pick up a bunch of really crazy bigoted things from movies that you watch, from television that you watch. I remember a lot of TV shows, a lot of movies that came out in the 1990s, early 2000s. Transgender people were the butts of every single joke all the time. People learn this stuff. It's ingrained in them from the default, right? So again, Matt Walsh's career was failing, right? And he decided, well, let me start a genocide campaign against the minority group. That'll get America gunning. And now he's rich. He's rich. Think about this. Think about the incentives here and our structure of society. Matt Walsh was just a nobody, a no-name loser. Now he is rich. He's got millions of followers, right? He gets tens of thousands of views on his shows. He gets tens of thousands of dollars in fundraising, right? Why? Because he started a genocide campaign. So this is his response to the mass shooting. Leftists are using a mass shooting to try and blackmail us into accepting the castration and sexualization of children. Now again, first sentence. Where's that big red X from Family Feud? Leftists are using a mass shooting to try and blackmail us into accepting the castration and sexualization of children. Now again, Matt Walsh describes himself as a theocratic fascist. That's his own words. He's using his own words here. No one else is describing him as this. This is his description. If that triggers you, go ask him about it. Theocratic. What is theocratic? Theocratic means religious. Now, what religion does Matt Walsh subscribe to? He is a Christian. Now, Christians love to circumcise their children. It's true. I know. It's crazy. What is circumcision? You might not know. Circumcision is when a baby is, they're a baby. They cannot consent, right? And they are forced by their parents and by medical quote-unquote professionals to have their dick chopped off. It's a religious ceremony. They remove the foreskin from children. Now, again, I believe I read an article that suggested around 70% of Americans support circumcision, right? So, and again, Matt Walsh, theocratic fascist. He's a fascist, but specifically a theocratic one. And what is his theocracy of choice? Christianity. And again, the institution of Christianity's most common practice is cutting babies' dicks off, again, when they're a couple weeks old. Now, again, foreskin. What's the big deal, right? Foreskin, I don't know. I've never had one, right? So I don't know what the big deal is. But from people that have foreskins, they tell me, pretty big deal. Pretty big deal. That's what they tell me. I don't know. So sadly, I will never have that information. But again, that's what Christians support. That's a majority of this country. They support removing forcibly parts of genitals from children. That's what they support. That's their policy proposal. So factor that into this. They are accusing left-wingers of wanting to castrate and sexualize children. The guy who wants the institution of the church to overthrow the government and become a state run by the church. What does the church do? Castrate babies by this logic, right? His own logic. Why is he calling it castration when a 16-year-old chooses to get their breasts cut off? That's castration, right? That's the word that he uses to describe that. When a 23-year-old decides to have a certain procedure done, that's castration. If a 16-year-old or a 14-year-old takes a pill that's completely 100% reversible for 3 months, and then maybe they get off of it, and then everything's normal, they're fine, that's castration. That's Matt Walsh saying. He calls that castration. So if I say circumcision is castration, I'm using Matt Walsh's logic. It's his logic. I'm not making up my... Now, I would go as far as to say, yes, it is castration as well. I would say that. But again, I'm using his logic to be very specific here. So let's move on. These people are just beyond evil. They're evil. Leftists are evil. Now, again, what's the context? What's the news story? A right-wing MAGA guy murdered at least 5 queer people. Who knows how many of the 25 injured will die? Murdered 5 people specifically, and only the one single reason. There aren't 20 reasons. There aren't 30 reasons. He wasn't having a bad day. He went there specifically and exclusively because he wanted to kill queer people. That's it. So that's the context of this. And the leftists are evil. Now again, leftists are not, they're not evil. They're beyond evil. The English language, according to Matt Walsh, does not have appropriate words to describe just how evil the leftists are. Now again, step 1. Fascists, like, again, self-described fascist Matt Walsh, promote fake news propaganda against minorities. Step 2, their viewers murder people based on that. Step 3, the real evil are the people that got murdered. Yeah, that person in the hospital bed who got shot 3 times and is currently in a coma, that's the real evil. That person is beyond evil. The family of the people that were shot and murdered by this lunatic, they're beyond evil. Not the lunatic. Well, he might be bad, right? Yeah, shooting people might be bad. But the real evil, again, the context here, think about this. Imagine, right? Imagine being this person. I can't even think about it. Like, I literally, outside of, like, doing a really over-the-top, like, sketch comedy, I could not imagine possibly thinking in this fashion for even a second. It's insane. Again, a mass shooting perpetuated by a right-winger that went and specifically targeted a specific minority group, and the same day, this guy calls the minority group that was targeted the real evil? I mean, again, think about that. That's crazy. I have never felt more motivated to oppose everything they stand for with every fiber of my being. Despicable scumbags. So again, everything they stand for. What does that mean? Now, obviously, that's a little hyperbolic. I don't think Matt Walsh is against eating food. I stand for eating food. I don't think Matt Walsh would disagree with me there. So obviously, I believe he's being a little hyperbolic. But again, think about it. Despicable scumbags. Who are the despicable scumbags? The neo-Nazi shooter? Or the people in the hospital right now that are suffering from extreme blood loss? Who are the real scumbags? According to Matt Walsh, of course, it's the victims of this mass shooting. People die, and the first thing they think is, yes, we can use this as ammo against conservatives who don't think children should be exposed to drag shows. Soulless demons. Evil to the core, truly. Again, drag shows. So first it was castration and sexualization. Now it's drag shows? So again, let's just logic. We're logicking this, right? We're using this as, we're doing this in a mathematical fashion. Would you advocate, or would you say the same thing if someone went to a Hooters? Let's say someone went to a Hooters and murdered everyone that worked at the Hooters. Hey, they were sexualizing children. Someone had a 15th birthday party at Hooters. So let's go in there and murder everybody, right? That's the logic here. If sexualizing children is defined, we're defining that concept as a drag show. Well, what is a drag show? A drag show is a bunch of people in costumes. Not naked, again. Not naked. Costumes. They dress up in costumes. They're not naked. No one is swinging a dick in a 5-year-old's face, right? Again, so a drag show is people dressing up in a costume and dancing. Now, again, you can argue a kid shouldn't be in that environment. Personally, I don't have children. I wouldn't take my kid to a drag show. I wouldn't take my kid to a bar. Maybe if they're 16, 17, maybe I'd consider it, but I personally don't care. Now, again, if someone disagrees with me, would I advocate for them to die? No. Matt Walsh, if you disagree with me, you should be killed. Now, again, Matt Walsh says, I've never felt more motivated to oppose everything they stand for. So Matt Walsh is utilizing a tragedy, a mass shooting, hate crime, terror attack against a minority group as a rallying cry to get everyone in his social group to double down on the lies. Now, again, I know that some people might be dumb enough to think that transgender people existing is quote-unquote sexualizing children. Some people, they are that stupid. Now, would I be willing to bet that Matt Walsh is not that stupid? Maybe I wouldn't take that bet. But I'm willing to say it is much more likely, given the fact that Matt Walsh was a nobody. He was a nobody. Like 2 years ago, nobody. More people knew who I was than Matt Walsh 2 years ago, right? And now all of a sudden murdering transgender people, adults, kids, whatever, murder everyone, all of them, right? All of a sudden it's so important to him. Somehow I doubt it. But again, these people, now I know, they're crazy. Oh, these are the crazy ones. I get it. Okay, yeah, they're nuts. I get it. But I need you to understand, Matt Walsh, how many followers does this guy have? Now let's assume, right, we know this. Let's look at some stats here. We know that 70% of email traffic is spam. We can extrapolate that, Elon Musk loved to do this big thing. Like, at least 10 or 12% of Twitter users are bots or whatever. Right, let's say this. Let's just take the email statistics, 70% as a high end. And let's just be very, very clear that that's a high end. So even if 70% of Matt Walsh's followers on social media pages are bots or fake or whatever. Let's assume that as possible. Now, again, I'm not saying that that's true. I'm saying that a number of them, maybe 5, 10, 20%. I'm just saying he's got a lot of followers. That still leaves a shitload of people, right? There's millions of people that follow this guy, right? So let's assume, again, even 70% of them are fake. That's still a fuckload of motherfuckers, at least 100,000 motherfuckers that follow this guy and genuinely, like, they think this way. Now, again, Matt Walsh, it's very possible he's lying for money. When you look at his history, he does a lot of lying for money, right? And again, just so happens, over the last year, he started getting a lot of money when he started talking about killing trans people. Now he's talking about it every day. Just so happens, right? Totally coincidental. But again, there's at least hundreds of thousands of people that follow this guy and genuinely, like, they read this and they go like, yep, those leftists, you know, the ones who just got targeted in a terror attack mass shooting, yep, they're the real evil. Evil to the core. They're demons from hell. So again, you know, when I talk about these goofballs, Candace Owens, Ben Shapiro, Matt Walsh, all these fucking morons, right? I know there's a good chance that they're all lying for money. I know it. I know how easy it is to lie for money. I mean, you know, whenever I, like, make a Joe Biden video, right? If I make the Joe Biden video and I make a title, like, that's critical of Joe Biden, that video will get a lot of views because right-wingers will come in, right? They'll think, oh yeah, Joe Biden is Sleepy Joe. Then they realize I'm criticizing him from the left, and then they call me a tranny or whatever other thing, you know. And so I'm aware, like, if I just kept talking about Joe Biden and Sleepy Joe and how bad he is, right? I'm aware I could get a lot more money. And let's say I lied. I think Joe Biden's a bad president, but let's say I pretended to think he's a bad president because of Hunter Biden's laptop or some other stupid conspiracy. I know for a fact, I know this for a fact, that I could get extremely successful on YouTube if I lied for money. I know this for a fact. I guarantee you, I could have at least, if you give me 5 years, I'd have at least 1 million subscribers, guaranteed. I know how the game is played, right? So I know when this guy is a nobody 2 years ago, and all of a sudden he's getting a bunch of money from right-wing institutions, right? This guy is not like a grassroots organizer. This guy got a break by a giant fucking media conglomerate, right? And I know that if you lie for money, especially if you have a right-winger giving you a shitload of seed money, you can go a long way, right? So again, I'm willing to believe that these guys lie for money. But the reason why I make a video like this is because there are people that believe this. But they're not going to be moved by logic. They're gone. They're too far gone. They're zombies, right? They're zombies. Now again, zombies? Are zombies necessarily dangerous? You ever play a game with zombies in it? Watch one of those zombie movies, zombie shows, right? Zombies are dangerous most of the time, but, you know, you hide in an apartment building. Sometimes, you know, you got like games like Dead Rising where the zombies are fucking stupid, right? You can like jump on a table and the zombies can't get you, right? But again, the right-wingers are zombies. That doesn't mean they're all dangerous. It doesn't mean they all want to kill people per se. There's a good chunk of them that do, right? And if you remove a couple societal conditions, like, again, you remove the threat of prison, you're going to see a lot more right-wing violence, right? That's why you see in these instances where cops, right-wingers become cops. Why? It removes the threat of prison. They get to enforce their bigotry, their white supremacy, their anti-gay, anti-trans stuff on real people and get away with it. 98% of cops that kill people don't even get charged, right? So, but again, you know, if you jumped off the table, going back to the Dead Rising analogy, if you played Dead Rising, hear me out here. If you haven't, just listen. If you jump off that table, the zombies are going to fuck you up. Think about it. That's the world we live in. There's a very, 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 very small thread that's keeping this thing from collapsing. There are. Now, again, let's extrapolate. How many people voted for Republicans in the midterm election? A lot. I haven't seen the final numbers yet because there are no final numbers, so I'm waiting. But let's assume how many people voted for Donald Trump in 2020, about 70 million people. Let's assume 70 million. Let's assume half of them, right, actually believe it. Now, again, why would the other half of the 70 million, why would 45 million people not believe the things Donald Trump says? Why would they vote for him if they don't believe the shit that he says? Why would they vote for him if they don't believe in the hateful transphobic rhetoric that he says, the hateful anti, black rhetoric, anti-Jewish rhetoric, his statements on immigrants, right? Why would they vote for him if they don't believe that? Oh, tax code, whatever, right? But again, let's assume just half, right? Let's just assume this. Half of Republicans that voted for Donald Trump in 2020 actually agree with him on these issues. That's 45 million people that actually think that all immigrants are rapists. That's 45 million people that actually think that transgenders are coming to chop up the kids. That's 45 million people. Think about that. How do you have a society, right? How do you have a society where that is acceptable? How do you have a society where, like, people can go to the grocery store and get what they need? Andrew Kohler corrects me, 37 million, half of 74. I was just rounding up, but yeah, thank you. I'm just rounding up, but yeah. Let's assume half of that. Let's assume 20 million. That's still, again, think about it. It's small in the grand scheme. But think about it. You go to the grocery store, how many motherfuckers you see at the grocery store? 30, 40, 50? When it's busy, maybe you see 100 people at the grocery store. Think about it. 10 of them. You see 100 motherfuckers at the grocery store. 10 of them believe Donald Trump and agree with him on the shit that he says. Probably would agree with Matt Walsh on the shit that he says. Think about it. 1 in 10. Now, I'm willing to say it's more like 1 in 5, 1 in 4. Right? I'm willing to say that, but like I'm being extremely charitable here. Let's say 1 in 10 members of society literally want to commit a genocide against another random one. Let's say you have 10 people in society, right? One of them wants to kill one of the other ones, and then the 8 people that are not involved, they don't give a shit. And that's liberals, that's Democrats. They don't give a fuck. Now imagine you're in a room with 10 people, right? One of them has a gun and threatens to shoot the other one simply because they're transgender. And the 8 people stand there and watch it. Maybe one of them is eating popcorn. Those are liberals. Those are Democrats. They're useless. They're garbage, right? They're certainly not going to jump in front of the bullet. They're not going to even say, maybe they'll go Hillary Clinton on him. I really think you should cut it out. Maybe, it's possible. One of them might wag their finger and say, bad. But are they going to do anything about it? Jump the guy? Nah. Jump in front of the bullet? No. Try to protect the innocent minority who literally did nothing other than breathe oxygen on planet Earth? Nah. They don't give a fuck, because they're not the ones in the crosshair. Yet. So anyway, that's my statement on this. I think I said everything I need to say. I don't know. I probably could come up with something else, but there you go.